readers, welcome back to The Adulterous Whore. I'm your host, Stacey. I have the absolute privilege today to have on my show Misty Simon. Woo!
Woohoo! Here we go.
Yeah. Thanks for coming on.
My
I
pleasure.
absolutely loved reading your book. So why don't you tell my listeners all about your book?
Okay, so it's two novellas in one printed book. It was originally published by Harlequin a lot of years ago, and they had started up this ebook only thing that they were trying. And I got in. I had wanted to write for Harlequin for I think 15 years and had never hit the mark. I tell different kinds of stories, and so this was scheduled to be a different kind of thing. So I submitted. I actually got the call while I was in Disney World watching my child dance, and I missed it on a Friday night at 5:30. And I was like, oh my, I cannot believe that I missed the call. And it was really cool. They liked the first one enough to take on a second one, and then they closed. And so it's kind of floated out there for a while as just an ebook. I had a lot of people asking, where can I get this as a print book? And I'm like, I have no idea. You can't. I'm sorry. That's so when the contract had run out, I went ahead and emailed Harlequin and said, can I just have these back? I mean, I know that like 1 to 2 people every 3 or 4 months buys one. And that could technically, contract wise, that could have kept them from saying, yes, here they are back. Because as long as they're selling, they can keep them.
Yeah.
But apparently I'd made my case well enough that I got them back. And then I decided, you know what? I want a printed book, but I'm not doing 2 25,000 word printed books. That doesn't make sense. So I put them together and I was like, okay, now that's really pretty. And then I made my own cover and that was very pretty. And then I had somebody else format them because I'm horrible at that.
Yes.
And people have really liked it, which I did. That's the original cover. Can I tell you, I actually have a calendar magnet made with that cover, and it's from 2015 and it's still on my refrigerator. I don't care what year it is. He is on there. My husband says, they got my good side. And I was like, I mean, not that my husband isn't absolutely adorable, but he does not have that tattoo and he does not quite have those back muscles. But yeah, it was the experience of Harlequin was awesome. And I was very happy to do it. They did originally buy it as a paranormal mystery, and then they turned it into a paranormal romance. So the romance aspect was there, but it was not as pronounced as it is in what ended up being published. And I loved it. I loved what what the editor had to say about it. I do have other ones that I've considered writing. I haven't gotten there yet because I am a little bit of an overachiever. I don't always want to be, but I have 8 series running currently, and I can't take on 9 just yet. Yeah, so we're capping some stuff off. It's good. I am getting a little bit of pushback from some readers because whichever series, someone always says that's my favorite one, and I'm like, yeah, I understand, but I am running ragged right now trying to keep 8 sets of characters in this fluffy haired head. And I promise, if you liked this, you will probably like this. Maybe not as much, because if it's your first time in my head, then you like that one you love the most. But there are other ones. So I actually write on 3 different tracks. I have contemporary, what I call rom cozies. So that's a romance with a cozy mystery. I write paranormal light, and they usually end up just being about ghosts or like something that's easier. And then the paranormal darker tends to be like the Wicked Inks. Magically Suspicious is a Ren fair that's run by misfit paranormals. And everybody there cannot do the one thing that they were born to do. And they've all been disowned. And so they're making their own family while also fighting things and dealing with the fact that they have 17 crossing ley lines underneath a tavern that are all sparking. And so but not everybody likes witches and werewolves and vampires. They'll do the ghosts. So my contemporaries will sometimes move into the ghosts. My dark will cover all, and my paranormal light will rock back and forth. I'm here for all of it. I have 74 books out. So, pick and choose what you would like to read. It's all there.
love it.
But I'm finishing some of the series off because I have new ideas. I actually sent one in yesterday. I'll be very interested to see if they love it for exclusive for your listeners. It's a dude ranch. It's a dude ranch set in Pennsylvania. It's run by witches.
Oh.
And they aren't allowed to tell anyone, but they do like these rides for like a week long. People come in for, like corporate team building and stuff. There's actually a valley on the property that is completely haunted and filled with evil spirits. And she just found somebody dead in there. And this is going to be a problem. So the first one, what is the first one called? It is Save a Cowboy, Ride a Broom. The second is All Rack, No Cattle. And the third is, no, it's not In Rest We Trust. That was the original title. I'll have to think about what the other one is called. But
wow.
I sent in a proposal, so we'll see. I mean, if they like it, then maybe we'll be able to get a new series out. I don't know. I'm always thinking of stuff.
I love that.
I do
That
like
sounds
the Dude Ranch.
Yeah, I love the sound of that. I could even
Thank
see it
you.
on TV.
Yeah. Well, so, and the ranch itself is called the Citispell Ranch. And so these three women that I have, so they're cousins, and they had been in each other's pockets until they were 18. I think it's 16 actually. And then they all went their separate ways. They have not seen each other in 20 years. And their godfather dies. And when he dies, he leaves the ranch to them. And so, but they have to stay for a year, which is a very cliched kind of thing. But sometimes cliches can be a lot of fun to work with if you put your own spin on it. So same thing with Dude Ranch, because most dude ranches are out west.
Yeah.
And no, I've made mine Gettysburg. So there's a lot going on there, but that's okay. Yeah, so there's a little bit of everything. But I do. So if people are more prone to, I'd rather just have contemporary romance with cozy mystery. I do have them covered. Have your ghosties covered. It's set in Chincoteague, which has ponies.
Yeah.
So these ponies live on Assateague, and they're free. They're wild ponies. They don't really they just let them do their thing. And so she owns a pet treat store on the island. And when she was little, she had these imaginary friends. And so she talked to them about all the things that you're really not allowed to talk to about your family because you don't want to hurt their feelings. So then later on in life, she comes back to help her aunt with this treat store, and she finds a dead body. And then there are these 4 women on the other side of a bush saying, I don't know, do you think she's going to want to see us? And somebody's like, well, she wasn't very happy to see us when she was younger. And so she's finally fed up, and she's like, seriously, show yourselves. And they're all ghosts. And so they have helped her throughout her whole life. She struggles with finding out that they're ghosts, because when you think it's an imaginary friend, but it's actually your boyfriend's dead grandmother, this tends to be a little bit interesting. I love them. So
yeah. It sounds amazing. Now you write really different genres. Wicked Ink is nothing like that. Like tell my listeners like roughly what.
Right. We were talking about Wicked Ink. Sorry.
What? I
went off. That's all right. So Wicked Ink started actually from, my husband is a big, huge comic book fan. And when he was younger, he had come up with a character where you would be able to make your tattoos transform into weapons. And so he's like, that would be really cool to see. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to try it out and I'll run with it. And so I took it a little bit farther than that, if you know. But so Garrett his mom actually tattooed him when he was younger in order to control him. And she has some witchy background, some not good witchy background. And when he is young, one of his friends dies during one of the things that she sends him out to do, because she's not a good person. The mom is not a good person. And he decides, forget it. I'm not doing this anymore. I cannot be this person anymore. And so he decides that he's going to be an anti-superhero kind of, where he is doing good things, but for him, it's all about redemption. Yes. And he has a handler, and then the girl next door at his apartment buildings feels very much like she's supposed to be taking care of him. I will say in the original form, she makes really horrible food. And they did not like that. Harlequin was like, can we dial that back a little bit? And I was like, I really would like to not. And they were
Yeah,
like,
well, yeah.
well, we're going to go ahead and ask for it. And I was like, fine, you can die. But she makes horrendous stuff that he actually hides in his freezer so as not to hurt her feelings. And he really does think that he is irredeemable. He thinks that whatever he has done and however he has to do it, that there is no way that anyone would ever really want to be his friend or his
Yeah.
anything. I mean, he doesn't even really think that the people who are there to handle him are doing it for any more than just trying to corral him. And I
Yeah.
really enjoyed moving him through, you are not as bad as you think you are. And the fact that
Yeah.
you're trying means a lot. But one of my first reviewers was, is that an electric chair? I was like,
Yeah.
yes, it is. I mean, he doesn't use it much once he gets into things, but the concept of paranormal, usually you can't just use your powers without there being any kind of drawback. Because if you could wish for anything, if you could make anything happen and you never have to either have a consequence or work for it, what stops you from just, zapping everything into existence? You do have to take some responsibility, but responsibility is different than blame. And
Yeah.
I loved Garrett. I was like, come on, we're going to do things that you are just not even going to understand. And I really enjoyed working with him, which is why I still flirt with the idea of writing more of these, but we have to close things off for other ones
Yeah.
first.
You've got to finish up some other stuff first. I
Just a little.
completely get that. But I had the same question about that chair. He realized that he could rein himself back in because that he got tased. So why not tase yourself?
So honestly, it came from, I think that he wouldn't have thought that tasing was enough.
Punishing
There
himself.
is, yes, there is absolutely in the beginning of the book, and even really through Protective Ink, he's still learning that you do not have to punish yourself for things that were out of your control. You can be a better person. You can
Yeah.
make an effort to be more than you thought you were. But
Yeah.
much like in like medieval times, when people were doing bad things, they would like wear hair shirts and they would flog themselves. And I was like,
Right.
we're not going that far. Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, electric chair was far enough, but
Yeah.
I mean, he's not, because of how he's built, he's not really hurting himself. Like, he's not dying every time he does this. But
Yeah.
for him, he also can't keep the darkness in. And
Yeah.
he didn't think that there were any other ways. And so
Yeah.
he was, he just stayed with what he knew. And so it was a wild ride writing them. I mean, there are a couple of times where I am like, wow, you are very mean. And I mean, and two, it's interesting when you're writing when I am writing a paranormal mystery, I find that I am okay with being far more mean to people that have extra abilities. Like, I won't necessarily, one of the reasons that I don't write straight romance is that, and by straight, I mean sorry.
And I know what
I
you
should
mean.
say just romance, is because I am very bad at putting them through all of these horrible things and then making it super worse at the end and giving you that black moment. I don't want that. If you fought this whole time, you should get your happy ending without having to fully dissolve. And
Right.
so with the mysteries, I'm in a different position because the black moment tends to be when you're confronted with the actual murderer. So
Right.
and it can still involve emotional stakes, but it's not as emotionally bad. However, with the paranormals, I'm like, oh yeah, no, we're taking you all the way through the ringer. I'm sorry that you're in my head. Brace yourself, Gertie, because here we go. In the Magically Suspicious, I do the same thing. There are things that I would not do to a contemporary couple that I will absolutely do to a paranormal, because they have a lot of fighting spirit and they have a lot of they have a lot to prove to themselves, because a lot of, especially the ones in my books, they think that they're either misusing what they're doing or they don't deserve what they've got. And so then you kind of have to show them, well, yes, hell yes. How about hell yes. You absolutely deserve. That's the core of all of my stories, is that most people don't think they're as good as they are. And I make them very much come face to face in the mirror with actually you're overqualified and an overachiever if you would just
Yeah.
see yourself like other people can see you. So it's a lot of fun. I mean, I have two different kinds of readers. I have one reader that will read the shallow story, which I love. I love them. They're just there for the mystery. They like the community aspect. They like to snort tea out of their nose when they're laughing. I had one person email me and say that, and I was like, I really hope you don't think I'm apologizing, because as far as I'm concerned, that's leveling up. And so, another one was like, I am on the beach and I have now had 10 people come over and say, what on earth are you reading?
Oh,
On the beach. Were any of them like sharks or anything? Because we would need to talk if you're out in the ocean. But I really do. I enjoy them immensely. But then I have a different set of readers, and they will tend to read in my books and email me with things that are like, why do I see myself in this character? Then I'm like, well, if you have a couple of minutes, let's sit down and talk about that,
yeah.
because I do have a series where she's just a doormat, and I love her. It's my very first series, and she will do anything to please anyone. One time 5 years ago, she was told that she looked nice in brown, and now she has a brown car, brown underwear, brown bras, brown pants, brown shirts.
Wow.
And if you tell her what you want, she will move heaven and earth to make it happen.
Wow.
Through the course of 6 books, she gets a backbone, and it is a beautiful thing. But my very first review on that, my very first fan mail was, do you mean I don't have to settle? And I had to stop myself. And I was like, okay, wow, you really got things that I wasn't intending to do that. The same thing with Garrett. I've had people say, well, obviously I don't electrocute myself, but I'm like, well, thank you for starting off with that. I
Yeah.
do appreciate that.
Thank
But they
goodness.
said, but I did do things when I was younger, and this has actually given me hope that I'm not lost. And I was
Yeah.
like, you never have been. And they're like, right, but I had to read it and see it. And I'm like, then I love both of those readers. Some people, look, I call myself, I don't know how old you are, so I'm about to date myself. I call myself Calgon, which the commercials used to be. It's a bath salt that takes you away. And that's what I do. I am genre fiction to the core. I do not write literature in any way, shape, or form. I am here to entertain you. But if in the
Yeah.
midst of that, you wonder if maybe you're not as bad as you think you are, and maybe there's a bright light at the end of the tunnel that you just need to turn around and look at, I'm
I
here
love
for that.
that. I
Totally here
love
for that.
that. I
Thanks.
completely love that.
It's
And
a
look,
lot of
you know what?
fun. It's
You know
really good
what?
therapy.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
If
Most
somebody
definitely.
irritates me, they're dead in my next book, like my dentist. And then beyond that, if I then look, there are a lot of people, a lot of introverted people that have a lot of things in their background. And if all they ever read are things with perfect people who just, got left at the altar and they've got to go through all the paces to realize that they're good, that's one thing. But if you also then give them a character that is Kirkus Reviews, I think it might have been Publishers Weekly, said, one of the things about my characters is that they have flaws, they
Yep.
own the flaws, and they
Yep.
do not try to fix them.
Yes.
None of us need to be perfect.
No.
That's all there is to it. And if
Yeah.
you have flaws and you want to lean into those babies, if they're not hurting you, but you're not the best singer in the world, you don't have to go take lessons so that you are. You
Yeah.
can just accept yourself for who you are and lean into that. And I think that's, that was the whole Wicked Ink thing, was you have power. What are you going to do with it? Because you can choose one or the other. You could choose something in the middle too. He could have just sat out and did nothing. He could have just decided, you know what? All right, I know how to block myself from this at all. I'll just wear these little tattoos around like it's nobody's business and go about my life. And he
Yeah.
chose instead to use what was something horrendous and make it into something that is not just good, but worthy of what his abilities are. His mother, tried to ruin him, and instead she made him super.
Yeah.
But he had to see that, and then he had to figure out how to do it without constantly thinking that he was failing. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, you nailed it. You nailed it for me.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. it's always interesting to work with characters. I don't always think about them all the way from the beginning that that's going to happen. Sometimes I write things and I'm like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to play with that, because Garrett was very one dimensional when I started out. I knew that he was going to have been a bad guy once, not by choice, that he was going to have to figure out how to make a life for himself outside of that. And there was an electric chair. Those were the three things I knew. And I knew that he had a handler and that there had to be a tattoo artist in there somewhere.
Yeah.
But other than that, the other thing with the paranormal, especially in these, I don't think that most romances involve a former prostitute and drug addict. It's like, I can't believe you're going there. And I was like, oh, yes, I am.
I like that. I like
Mm.
that. That somebody who writes a very unique story with things that other people shy away from. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah. I tend to not shy away from a lot of things.
No, I noticed.
I mean, I have a lot of backstory that involves a lot of different kinds of abuse. And I've had people say, well, you should be writing women's fiction. And I'm like, okay, however, if I am going to deal with these things, as I have dealt with them with myself, if I'm going to showcase them in a book, we're doing it in a way that I can turn it enough to have it come out a different way. So I've never done drugs. I've never been a prostitute. But I have suffered the kind of abuse that could lead to that. Yes. And so I will say to myself, okay, but how do we make this? And none of it has damaged me. If anything, it has created the kind of person that can tell those kinds of stories and hit people on an emotional level where they feel like there is hope. I've had a lot of conversations with people I don't even know what their first names are, and they'll just unload stuff like in an elevator, and I'm like, okay, and they're like, well, I don't think I'm going to survive this, and I'm like, actually, I can tell you what it's like to survive that, and they're like, what? You're smiling and you're fluffy, and I wear vintage swing dresses for my book signings. So people are like looking me up and down going, but you're so put together. And I'm like, that's because I choose to be put together. I've worked through a lot of the stuff. And so much of it was before I turned 18 and I'm 48. So, I've had 30 years of really dealing with all of the things, but in the scheme of things, there are a lot of people in their 30s and 40s who have never looked at that. And so if they read a book like Wicked Ink, Protective Ink, and they see that she was able to find the beauty in what life is after you have broken away from something that's been hurting you for years and offer that hope to other people, maybe that's not the story you got. Maybe you were so excited about there being tattoos that flew down his hands and electricity and dark magic and all that kind of stuff. And I love you for reading it like that. I also love the other people for reading it like, do you mean? And I'm like, I absolutely mean. I mean every single thing. Whatever you get out of this, I'm only here to tell the story. You're the one who processes it.
For sure, because everybody reads a book. You don't necessarily get the same thing that someone else does. And your journey is just your journey. It's not right or wrong. And that's one of the things I love about reading too. But I saw all the deeper stuff in your books too. I actually was abused. I was abused myself. I fled.
I'm sorry.
It was a long time ago now, but you can still feel the scars sometimes, even after the healing, they still itch a little bit. So I can feel, and I felt that in your book. I felt what Garrett was feeling in that moment too. So it makes complete sense to me. But I also did love the tattoos and the weapons. I'm not gonna lie.
You can do both. There is room for both of those in there. Absolutely. Well, and I think, so many people expect that you're gonna like go to therapy and heal and then it's all done. That's not true. So I call it, here we go. I call it a filter. And some of the strings are gossamer and some of them are steel wire and some of them are razor blades. They all make up everything that you are. So there are people who, when a door slams in the house, they will think, Dad's home. And another set that the door will slam and they say, oh, Dad's home. Those are two very different things. But you can work on how the filter is used, but it's still there. Because the thing is that if I changed something, one breath 20 years ago,
Mhm.
I am not sitting here talking to you about a book that I love. And I am not willing to change that thing to miss out on this. And
Right.
I think that's a lot of times what I'm writing also is that your past doesn't necessarily have to define you, but it
Correct.
definitely encourages you to have made the decisions that you make today. And it's never too late to make different decisions. I
Exactly.
mean, Garrett could, if he had wanted to, after the first one and realizing how bad it was going to be to have to remove the darkness from himself, he could have chosen to never do it again. He could have been like, you know what, I'm good, but I'm not that good.
Yeah.
And that would have been the end of that story. But he
Right.
chooses every single time to save people without telling you who he is, without telling you how he's doing it. He steps into the fray every time because I think in the writing, there was a piece of him that had wished that someone had done that for him.
Yeah. I think so
And
too.
there's a whole meme thing about, instead of always worrying about what you're not and that you didn't get saved, can focus on being the person that you wished could have saved you. And that's a chain breaker. I mean, especially if it's a family thing or it's a generational thing. If you can break that chain, because that's what Garrett did. I didn't explore too much how we got here, but I am pretty certain that his mom was also controlled. I don't think that she just came up with this. It was part of how she was raised, and she was not able to break the chain. And so Garrett is going to be the one to do that. But dressing it up in paranormal makes it fun, but
Yeah.
also can speak to the reader in a way that maybe they hadn't thought about it. So, I mean, I laugh all the time. I rarely go out without, interacting with somebody who
Yeah.
guffaws, which I find very exciting. I love the guffaw. That is my thing. I guffaw also, so I'm here for it. But you could choose to be really silent. And there are days I'm not 100% on all the time. I
Right.
mean, but there are days where I'm like, okay, today is going to be one of the days that you choose to be happy, not ecstatic, not enthusiastic about all the things, but also not in a dark spot. I actually hand out, when I'm doing book signings, I have these little tiny tokens. I don't have one near me, but it's a pocket hug. And so I hand them out to everybody and I say, look, there's sometimes a moment where you're going to start spiraling. And if you have this in your pocket and you wrap your hand around it, you can
Yeah.
stop the spiral. I did that at a convention. It was 4 days long. And on the third day, somebody came up and said, why does this work? And I said, it works because you want it to. That
Yes.
doesn't have anything to do with me. It could be anything in your pocket, but I told you that it's a possibility and you believed that it was a possibility. And in doing that, you changed it. You made
Yeah.
it work. And I mean, some people just need the boost that says you're okay. And
Yeah.
I do love doing that through stories. And sometimes people just want to read while they're waiting for the spaghetti to boil. And I'm here for that too.
Yeah.
Whichever one you get, I want what you want out of the book. I am
I love
never going to
that.
be the one who says, well, I don't think you read my book appropriately if you did not get the learning lesson of, I'm like, don't do that. But if you need to be entertained because you're in a really crappy position and you're sitting in your car trying not to cry and you
Yeah.
read my book and you guffaw, I did my job. If
Yeah.
you just need a couple of minutes while the child is napping and you snicker because you don't want to guffaw because that might wake up the child, I did my job. If I made you think about something that you've struggled with for 25 years and you looked at it differently, then I also did my job. I'm
Yeah.
here for whatever experience you want.
Love that. You're the first author I've heard to actually say something that profound. And it's
Oh,
not even like
profound. Well,
it
thank you. I
is, but it
appreciate
is.
that.
Because I've seen a lot of authors and they talk about how this is what they expect you to get from their book. And you're
No.
like, I don't care what you get from it, as long as you get something. You know what I
Yes.
mean? You're here for that. Oh my God, that's
Yeah.
amazing.
I mean, part of it is that I would tell the stories even if they weren't being published.
Yeah.
I would write regardless. I would write for myself. And that is, I understand that there are a lot of writers who are like, I write for the reader. I do not. I do not write for the reader. I write for me.
Love
And
that.
then I hope that the people who need to see it will find it. And
At the
exactly. Well, and look, I mean, you also could Poison Ivy, which is my very first set. It's the Ivy Morse Mysteries. It's the girl with all the brown. I recently had somebody read it for the first time. That book came out in 2005. And somebody was like, oh, and I was like, oh, did you just read Ivy? And they're like, yeah, what is that? And I was like, well, you know, I mean, a lot of people are people pleasers, and I will also take characters and make them like the outside edge of what that means. You can be a people pleaser without changing your entire wardrobe to brown. But I wanted that extra layer of extraness, which I need an editor when I say things like that. But I wanted that additional layer of, oh my gosh, because I think if you're watching it through someone else's eyes, and they are so far out there that if you're back 5 steps on the scale, you actually see yourself better. Because you don't necessarily think, well, I'm not that bad. And then you're like at the end of the book and you're like, I'm not that bad, but I bet you I could be better. Yeah. And I'm like, do you think so? Because I think so too. Read book 2. See what happens next. So that's an interesting series because it's very sexy. I take you all the way up to the door and then I slam it in your face. And there are a lot of cozy mystery authors and readers who do not like they want the Hallmark experience, which means no touching beneath the shoulders and everything is felt emotionally. And honestly, book 2 opens with an adult toy party where they're making penis cookies. So I don't think that's not for you if that is not your thing. Although I did a church book club once, and I always take all my books and I said, these are not for you because you will be offended by what's in them. Every single one of them bought one. And I was like, what did I just tell you? You are not allowed to have those. And they're like, do you think I don't know how to? I have 7 children. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess that was something actually I was talking to a book coach the other day and she was like, why do you try to talk people out of reading your books? And I'm like, well, I'm paying attention I'm reading the room. And she's like, but you're also not allowing adults to make their own decisions.
Or are you using reverse psychology?
That's what I'm going to tell her next time. If we talk again, I'm going to be like, so I really thought about the question that you were asking, and I believe it's more me being smart enough to use reverse psychology to tell people they can't have it, so of course they want it. And then she'll laugh at me and say, that's BS. Thank you so much for taking 3 weeks to think of it. And I'll be like, I didn't think of it. Stacy told me. It's Stacy's fault. She's the one. She told me.
Someone tells me I'm not allowed to, I don't need to read that. I want to read it. Someone gives a book a 1-star review. I am buying that book. Yes. That's who I am.
Yes, absolutely. And you need to own it. Just, you know, I mean, if you're ever on my Facebook, I post a lot of things that it's like positivity with a side of snark because I don't think that it's always ponies and puppies and rainbows. You know, there are things that I absolutely, I'm like, yeah, you know, the recent one was somebody saying, you look happy. And her response was, yeah, I stopped trying to people please and became the feral creature I was always meant to be. And I'm like, yes. Thank you.
Yes.
Because I have played by society's rules for a very long time. And some of it I will always be here for. My anniversary was last month and I've been married for 28 years now. We got married when we were 20 and I adore that. And I'm not going anywhere with that one other than falling more in love with the husband every day. And it's really funny because he asked the other day, so do you think I'll ever be written into one of your books? And I looked at him and I was like, you're serious? And he's like, oh, is that asking too much? And I was like, you're the hero of every single book I've ever written. And he was like, what? And I'm like, some shade of you exists in every single book every hero I have ever written is pieces of you. And he's like, are they the good pieces?
He knows you. See,
he does. Yes. He does. We've actually known each other since 9th grade. He had a crush on me and did not tell me. And then in 12th grade, I asked him to go to the winter formal and he said no. And so I was like, see, I told you he doesn't like me. And then I saw him like 2 years later at a cafe, but he was turned towards the register. And I looked over at my friend and I was like, ooh, I would not mind a piece of that. And she was like, do you know who that is? And I was like, no, and neither do you. And she's like, that's Daniel. And I was like, oh, I have to go bleach my eyeballs. I cannot believe that's sacrilege. No, no. So then like a year later, we were at another coffee shop and I was like, are you with anybody? Well, we used to say, how's the husband? How's the wife? And then I said, well, I don't have a husband. And he said, I don't have a wife. And I said, I'm so sorry. Here's my pager number. And so then we went to TJ that night, which is Tijuana. For anyone who doesn't know what that is, we lived in California. You can be 18 and drink down there. And he drove me home to safety after I drank a couple too many tequila poppers. And then we were inseparable. And a year later, we got married. And now we've been married for 28 years. And I just,
love that.
I like writing heroes that they don't complete you, they complement you. Because you're already complete on your own, but sometimes you need to see yourself through someone else's lens who thinks that you're pretty much the most awesome thing that's ever happened to them. You just need to get on board and stop trying to figure out how to self-deprecate. It's a thing, you know, but there are some times where he's like, what did I do today? And I was like, very bad things. It's like, well, I don't know if I like that. I was like, well, you're just going to have to deal with it because I'm the one who's writing it. But yeah, it's exactly. And there's a lot of different stories to tell. I do like writing this series though, because it's not a one and done. That's another thing about romance. As much as I love reading them, it's hard because once you're done with one book, even if it's like 6 brothers, you're never going to get the intimate relationship with those two again. Whereas because I do mystery series that are usually 5 or 6 books long and they're generally in first person, which Wicked Ink is not, you get to be along for the whole ride. And that's Wicked Ink. I really enjoyed being in that ride. But then when they closed down, I was like, well, I'm not really going to be able to do anything with that until they release them. And now that they have, I don't know, you might want to brace yourself. We might be doing some other ones because
it's funny because, like, even from the start of Wicked Ink, I kind of, like, as soon as you introduce Jackson, I'm like, ooh, I like him. And I had this, like, lady crush all the way through. Is it really hard to get into the mindset of writing male characters?
So, yes and no. I think that when I'm working in the male character's head, I try to think about, I have 2 younger brothers. I have been with the same guy for 28 years. And when I was in high school, most of my friends were guys. I tended to be more in the guy area than I was in the girl area because we had some really nasty. Some of them have died in books. I'm just saying. But anyway, you can't guess who. I won't tell you. But yeah, like I said, good therapy. I'm like, oh, do you remember when she did that? Let's just knife her right now on the page. I'm here for this. Very saucy. It's okay. But I do try to think about how some guys are raised and what that does to their own filter. And I don't necessarily, like I said earlier, I don't necessarily plan everybody out from the beginning. I do sometimes base them on people. This is another one of your questions. I do base them on people that I know. Like much of them, 20% of them maybe is people I know, and then they become their own people. So like my grandmother was, she was saucy. She was saucy, 4'10", very saucy. She would tell people, my name is Letitia. It is spelled Lititia, and no, it is not said Letitia. And I'm like, you just said it was Letitia. No one is going to think that what are you doing? And then her second follow-up was, and I'm a cougar.
Ooh.
Oh, I mean, it wasn't untrue. She was 92 with a 72-year-old boyfriend. And I was like, can we not do that? So she's a couple of different grandmothers in different series. Garrett is definitely someone that I knew from high school who really struggled with his family's situation. Like he couldn't get out of his family's shadow. And so no matter what happened or what he did or how he did it, even if it was good, and I made a point of saying, that was awesome, he always felt like there's just no way he could have been good enough to do that. And so when I was doing Garrett's story, my thought was, how would I help? How do I wish you saw yourself? And how do I get you there? And so Jackson is the same thing. I mean, he has in the first book, he has a lesser part, but he actually has a really huge responsibility of keeping Garrett from hurting himself. And Jackson sees Garrett for who he is, but then Jackson doesn't necessarily see Jackson for who he is.
Oh,
and so I really liked, Yeah, I really liked working with him in the second book because I thought you see the best in everyone, but you cannot see the best in you. And I need to explore why that's a thing for you. And I
Yeah.
really enjoyed it because, all through it, and I have people who are like, okay, so seriously, I'm not a guy, but I was totally in on Jackson's journey. And I'm like,
Yeah.
you don't have to only be a guy. There are far more things that we have in common between genders than people think we do. And we're
Yeah.
all just trying to make the best possible life that we can. And so when I'm able to do that in the paranormal world, I am allowed to be far more mean to them, far meaner to them. But I also tend to reward them a whole lot more
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
if you
I
can get
noticed that.
through it, I'm here for it. I want to give you that spectacular the end that you have deserved from the beginning. And you have fought really hard. I love watching like fantasy, like Lord of the Rings is, although I will say
Yeah.
sometimes I fast forward through the Frodo parts because I'm like, I just want the battles. Just give me the battles. But I love the ones where the person at the beginning is in their mind, nothing. And at the end, they're actually far more than they could have ever thought they were. But I do like the humble part. I don't like the ones where they're nothing. They find out that there's something and all of a sudden they're entitled. That's
Yeah.
not working for me. I want
Yeah.
you to stay humble, but I want you to see how awesome you are. So
Yeah. Well, I love
that's what I
that.
do. Thanks.
Because I also, like, you have Dory, and I felt that she was a really beautiful balance between the two men as well. Now, she obviously overcooks with spices because Garrett mentions that. She's always trying to feed him. I
Yes.
absolutely love that.
Yes.
But she also is really stubborn and pig-headed. Like, he's trying to protect her. Like, this danger is severe, man. This is no joke, but she's not interested. Are you that pig-headed? Who is that
Yes.
pig-headed person in your life?
Yes,
You?
that's
You.
me. That's me. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I will go the distance all on my own. So it's very interesting because in my marriage, Daniel is very quiet.
Yeah.
And if you are out with the two of us, you will think that I am the only one who talks. I'm the only one who talks in public. He
Okay.
does a lot of talking at home.
Right.
And he's just quieter. But again, he compliments me. He doesn't complete me. He allows me to be the person that I've always wanted to be. But he saw things in me that he then encouraged, and I felt safe to go after, if that makes sense. And so
Well, he
when
made you the best version of yourself.
yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I still have maybe one or two things I could work on. Maybe. Who
Like
knows?
you said, you own it. You own your flaws.
Yeah, I totally. He's like, or his family will be like, "Wow," and I'm like, "Yeah, isn't Daniel lucky?" And they're like, "It's not quite the word I would have used," and I'm like, "But it is the one you'll use now." And
It's
they're like,
exciting.
yes. I mean, that's some people will say, does it bother you? Does it bother you that you're not everyone's cup of tea? And I'm like, well, it is not my fault that you don't have good taste.
No.
I mean, that's what it comes down to. You can like me or not like me. I'm not changing these dresses. I've had people who are like, do you like wearing them? And I'm like, let's be honest here. If I didn't like wearing them, I wouldn't. That sometimes that reflects back to people that it is okay to make decisions that affect you. You don't have to do things if that somebody was like, well, it's your brand now. And I'm like, and I would change it in 2.3 seconds if I don't
Yeah.
like them. I am here to be me. I want you to be you. And you can like something, but I can also decide that it no longer fits what I have chosen to do with myself.
Wow.
That's where the positive snark comes from, too, is that, there are people that they don't want just like everything's going to be awesome. No, it's not. No, it's not. It's going to be rough. You're going to walk out of hell and bring water buckets for others. That's
Yeah.
how it's going to work. And not everybody can do that. Not everybody has to do that. But some people are made that way. And I think instead of always trying to soften themselves, where there should be soft pieces of you, but sometimes there has to be some hard pieces of you too. And you don't have to shy away from what your lived experience has been just because it makes other people uncomfortable. I'm sorry that you don't like that I am honest about that. Maybe don't ask the question.
Yeah.
But I do the fun things too, because so I have an emporium of positivity and you can get Yetis.
Aw.
This is the spaghetti Yeti. and his little umbrella says, "You've got this." It's cocktail umbrella. And he is for if you're writing, you can throw all the words at the page, see what sticks later. This is the Getty Yeti. He is here for research. And then we have the Machete Yeti, who comes with a sword, and he is for editing. But it's just, those kinds of things. I also have emotional support chickens. They don't give a cluck. And so, yeah, they don't give a cluck. I have emotional support dumpster fires. It says, "It's fine. I'm fine. Everything is fine." Because maybe it's not, but that doesn't mean you're not going to make it till tomorrow. I have a tattoo on my leg, actually, which I don't know if everybody knows, so I'm going to explain a little bit. It's a semicolon. So as an author, you could choose to end a sentence with a period or a semicolon. Makes the sentence continue. I went ahead and put "hold on" between the period at the top and the comma at the bottom. I have had more conversation about, do you know what that means? And I said, I wouldn't have put it on my leg if I didn't know what it means. How are you struggling today? And they're like, "I'm really struggling." And I'm like, "Well, do you want me to make you laugh, or do you want me to sit in the dark with you until you're ready to get up?" And they're like, "Well, I would rather you make me laugh." And I'm like, "Let me tell you about my grandmother, who says that her name is Letitia, and she spells it and then tells everybody that it's not Letitia." And they're like, "My God." I'm like, "This is a woman who's in her 90s." And they're like, "That's brilliant." And so suddenly some of it is alleviated. Yeah. But then there are other people who are like, "Can you just sit with me?" And I'm like, "Quietly or loudly?" Because I can do either one. Like, I may be out there. I am very much an extrovert, but especially at conferences, I don't ever share a room with anyone because I need to be able to go back to my room and decompress by myself.
Right.
And then I can go back out. No one is 100% of the time. And I think that a lot of people read for entertainment, but they also read to do a life that they've never had to, or to see that a life that they're in the midst of is not necessarily the end.
Yeah.
And I want all of that. Like I said, whatever you wanted to get out of the book, I hope you got it out of the book. I'm not here to tell you whether or not you liked it enough. Although I do love when people say, "So I was reading your book and there was this purple couch and I feel that it's a euphemism for," and I'm like, "No, it's just purple because that's my favorite color." They're like, and they're like, "But I can make that sound smarter if you want me to." Here, let me try again. I believe that purple is the ultimate outside showing of the way that Ivy has grown through the many books where she has decided that color is allowed in. And they're like, "Yeah, you can stop that now." I'm like, "Thank you," because I was running out of words. I don't know.
Well,
I get it.
You should start making a list. You should carry a notebook. And when people say, "I think it's a euphemism for it," you write down what they had to say and you create a book of all the things that people got from the book which weren't true. I would totally buy that book. I would buy that book. Hilarious. That is hilarious. I was talking to an author the other day and she was like, "I wrote this character and I wrote it on this woman, and this woman like listened to, she was doing like a question and answer time, and she was like, 'Oh my God, that character.' And she's like, I'm just about to get called out that it's written about her." She was like, "I don't believe this kind of person exists." And she was looking at her like, really?
Do you know how many people never see themselves in your books? My goodness. It's quite the circus sometimes, because they're like, "She was so mean and I just don't understand." And I'm like, "Are you sure about that?" And I'm not going to tell them because it doesn't.
She was waiting for it. She was waiting for it. She's going to know it was her. She's going to know it her. She's like, "Oh, I don't believe people like that really exist." And she was like trying to think of something to say. She was like, nothing was coming.
You're like, "Shall I point you to June 6th, 1997, where this incident absolutely happened and it is burned in my brain because you made it." And yeah, I mean, it's the thing. I think so many people are storytellers.
Yeah.
And that is primary. So when I do a lot of like panels and stuff, especially within the mystery world, a lot of mystery writers are former lawyers or doctors or like big PhD kind of things. I went to trade school for medical administration. I took a couple of day classes. I've done some online classes. I have no degree in anything. And so when I first started doing the panels, I would be very nervous because I'm like, "Oh God, here comes my intro. And I'm not as smart as everybody else." And then I started thinking, but aren't you opening the door for other people to see that you don't have to have? I mean, I love if you had the ability to go to college and make everything that you wanted to happen. I think that's beautiful, but not everybody gets that. So then I did have somebody say, so you don't have an MFA? And I'm like, babe, I don't even have a B. Okay. So like, I don't have a bachelor's in anything. I don't have a master's. I don't have any of it. I'm a storyteller, and then I found people to help me make sure that all the commas are in the right place and make sure that the storyline runs through. And then I just did what I wanted to do without feeling. So the next time that a panel happened, I sat there and I thought, all right, here it comes. And so they're like, Misty Simon always wanted to be a Muppeteer. Yes, I did. And they were like, okay. And so when that didn't work, she tried telling her stories through books. And I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I did. And then I had more people come up and say, well, what am I supposed to do? And I'm like, look around for, online classes, start writing your story and then figure out what makes it you. And then another thing that I encourage people in general, I don't think you have to fix everything that you think is wrong. I think you do, however, while leaning into your flaws, also pay homage to your strengths. Yeah. If you're really good at singing, then sing. You don't also have to be able to play the clarinet. You can do, so in my stories, my humor is one of the things that I like the most about what I do. And it's just there. So when I have had revise and resubmits from like agents or publishers, I got a 9-page resubmit revision letter once. And she had broken down every single chapter and how I would fix it to become the book that she wanted. And I said,
oh my God,
I really appreciate all of your time. And this is not at all a book that I would ever write.
No.
But if you want to give it to somebody else and see what they can do with it, I think that would be a great idea. But I am very, very strong in the fact that I write what I want to write. Yeah. And if you love it, then that's awesome. And if you don't, again, not my fault. You have bad taste. I mean, it's a thing. I read, and when I'm at book signings, I'll say, what is it that you read? I do not ask if you read cozy mysteries. I want to know what you read. And they're like, well, I really like thrillers with, very strong women who, just go out and kick ass. And I'm like, I am not your person. Let's go over here 3 tables down. You're going to absolutely love her stuff because she blah, 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 blah. Sometimes they'll come back and buy my book for their mom. And then I sign it. You have the best daughter ever.
Nice.
And then I
love that.
As you do. I mean, it's a thing. And so, I don't need to fulfill everybody's every need. I do need to fulfill mine, to tell stories that speak to me, and then I hope will also speak to other people. I was at a conference once and this girl runs up to me and she's like, oh my God, are you Misty Simon? And I was like, if it's good, then yes. And if it's bad, I'll go find her for you. And she was like, well, I just went through throat cancer. And I was like, oh, I don't like when conversations start like that. She's like, I was getting in trouble for laughing during my chemotherapy treatments. And I was like, okay. And she's like, but I'm done now. I'm like, thank you. And she said, the other day I was having a really bad time. And I thought, if Ivy Morris can do this, then so can I. And I said, I will be back in 10 minutes when I fix my makeup, because that speaks to everything I could ever hope for. You don't have to get that experience, but if you do, and then you feel the need to share it with me, that is like, what? It's all of it. It's everything. I feel like we missed some of your questions. Sorry.
Yo, you pretty much covered everything, and I really love that. I was just looking through, and I'm like, I think you've literally, you chatted through everything, but it's more natural this way. Like I
do read through them first to like have in my brain what it is you're going to ask, and then if it segues without, but I still like to try to make sure that you get at least 10 to 12 words in during the hour. I think you're at 15, so you're doing 18. Good.
I think I got 18. We're doing awesome. It wasn't about me. It was about you. I want everyone to know about you. People know about me. I'm always ranting and raving like a lunatic.
That's all right.
That sounds great. The one question I was going to ask you was, are you a reader yourself? What genres
Yes.
do you read?
Oh, so I tend to love historical romances.
Wow, and you don't write in that genre.
I know. No, I do. Well, that's not entirely true. So if you're willing to take a chance on something a little different, which you did on the Wicked Ink, there is a book called Corpses and Corsets, and it is steampunk Victorian England in the 1800s. She is a witch and her husband died, and she was on trial for his death and has been exonerated. But
Yeah.
then one of her childhood friends is dead, and she goes to the funeral, and the bottom of the coffin drops out. Because at that time, if you couldn't afford a coffin, they would put you in with a drop bottom and let you out and then take it out and use it again.
Yeah,
And
that's right.
so when her friend falls out of the coffin, it is very obvious that she did not just fall down a set of stairs. And so she and her cousin named Flossie start looking into things. They are very irreverent. They are. So this is actually, it's my very first co-author project. I didn't think I would ever do this, but it's me and Rachel Rawlings. And so Rachel Rawlings writes a lot of supernatural, harder core stuff. We each write a chapter. So she writes one, then sends it to me, and then I write the next one and send it back. Halfway through that book, we were sending pictures of gauntlets and saying, let's see what you can do with that, bitch. And I was like, yes. And funny enough, when you read through, you can't really tell who wrote which chapter. We are far more alike in voice than I had realized. So that does happen in a historical. The reason that I like historical romance is, for one thing, the rules are different than today. And like, ankles are sexy. And by the time you get to actually the real sex part, they're so excited about having seen the inside of her wrist that I'm like, oh my goodness, this is going to be something else, isn't it? You know, of course, they never talk about everybody probably still had hairy legs back then. I always love when they're like, her smooth legs. I'm like,
no,
don't know about that. But it also helps me to read outside of what I write.
Yeah.
Because then I'm not concerned about duplicating anything. I also read a lot of high fantasy. I read a lot of high fantasy from the 1980s, which there was a different set of rules back then. They're kind of sort of more surface stories. And so they're like journey as opposed to absolute demolition of society. And so I really like them, you know, but I'll read a lot of things. If someone recommends it to me, I'll read it and I'll enjoy it. I get lost in other people's worlds too. And sometimes I'm like, I wonder if I do that. And then when I'm writing, I'm like, well, I do kind of do that. Is there something that I could bring forward to make it more? And sometimes there is, and sometimes there's not. You know, sometimes it's something that I'm like, I think I already do that, or that's not appropriate for the genre I write, but I love that you do it. So yeah.
I love that. So what are you currently working on, and when can readers expect to read it? I know.
Okay, so right now I am working on, the book is called Pressed to the Nines, and it is Charmed in Mystery. So she is she's a mancer. She's a bibliomancer. So that means that when she gets asked a question, she opens a book, reads a passage, and she can answer it for you. It generally has nothing to do with what the question is, but because she's reading it, it translates in her brain to what question you have. She thinks it's a really stupid thing because everybody else can do really fun things. And she thinks that this is ridiculous until she finds a dead body on a ferry. And then all of a sudden it becomes very important. She owns an inn, a bed and breakfast that's been passed down through the generations. Her name is Roxy, and she is a lot of fun. So this is book 4. This is book 1, which is by hook or by book. And then book 2 is Crooks and Nannies. Book 3 comes out on the 11th of November, and that's called A Very Long Way to Go. It's the last place on the Susquehanna River in Pennsylvania that has a ferry that you can put your car on and it'll take you to the other side of the river. I really wanted to play with that. So it'll be book 4. That will be out in April. And then,
wow, you write quick.
I do. I tend to not actually tell people how fast I can write because I don't want them to put themselves up against me and say that they're not as good. But you do have to take into account that I've been doing this for 25 years and I really don't care if there are red squiggle lines. So if you're like going to break off and go fix some paragraph where you spelled was wrong because it's WSA instead of do that later. That is what the spaghetti yeti is for. You throw the words at the page. And then later on, you take the machete yeti and you do the things that you're supposed to do. I think that a lot of people stop themselves by trying to make everything perfect. If you need that, don't change. But if you could give yourself a little leeway, maybe you would write faster. And I do have a day job, but I tend to only write or work until noon most days. And then my husband works nights, 5 days a
Lots
week.
of free
So
time.
I am open from like 12:30 to 10 to do whatever the heck I want. And so I want to write. So yeah,
Nice.
that's a lot of
So where
fun. And I get to
well,
talk
yeah.
to people in myself.
Yeah.
I get to, "Ooh, what sassy thing is she about to do?" Even some things that I
Yeah.
might not do myself, I can make them do.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
see how it feels. There's no
Yeah,
danger.
living vicariously. Good
Exactly.
therapy. I'm not lying. I did, however, I wrote a series once that's set on Catalina Island, which is off the coast of California. And I went over there. I took one for the team, took a boat over. I rented a golf cart because everybody there drives golf carts because it takes 35 years to get a car on island and it has to be the size of a golf cart. So I went in and I rented one and I was like, yeah, I'm ready. Can you chirp the tires on this? And he's like, we'd rather you didn't. And I said, hypothetically speaking, can you chirp the tires on this? And he was like, I mean, not when you take off, there's not enough power, but if you slam the brakes at the end, it will do the And I was like, okay, thank you. I said, because I'm writing a murder mystery. I said on the island. And he said, a murder mystery. You're going to kill somebody on the island. And I was like, I am. And he said, I have a list. And he emailed it to me. So I'm covering my bases. If you have a list and you want to share it with me, one of my friends at work, one of her friends came in. It was ridiculous. So we had I don't work in a cubicle anymore, but I used to. And it had metal cabinets up top. So I brought in like the Wicked ink magnet with, I don't care what year the calendar's from. And I had like book covers and stuff posted there. So this lady walks by and goes to the cubicle next to mine. And I hear her say, oh my gosh, the girl right next to you loves my favorite author as much as I do. And I'm like, uh-oh. And so my friend at work is like, did you read her nameplate? And her friend pops around and I put my head out and she's like, oh my God. And I was like, I really am just a normal person. And she's like, I don't know that you are. And I was like, well, so then it was my friend ended up asking if for her birthday, if we could go out to dinner, the three of us. I'm fine with that. I knew that I would be a birthday present, but whatever. And she was talking about how horrible her first husband was and that he tried to poison her while she was on ski patrol. And I was like, do you want me to kill him? And she was like, yes. And can you make it really bad? And I'm like, of course. And so I got some information and he is definitely one of the victims. Sometimes they're the perpetrators though, because I know that you're now going to jail forever and you thought that you were super smart, but you're not. And so, either way.
I love that. You're hilarious.
Thank you.
People are going to find you as funny as I am. Where can people find you online? Because I think this is really important. Like a mental health.
Totally understandable. Misty-Simon.com at Misty Simon Writes for like Instagram and TikTok-y things. Yes. So I need to get back to that. But at one point I was making like 60-second videos that started with, hey there, writer, you showed up. Because I think a lot of people, they don't take into account that writing is not just putting words on the page. Sometimes it's thinking, sometimes it's researching, it's editing, it's a lot of different things. And so I was just like, I would roll dice and stuff and pull cards and whatever. And I'm like, here, go write me a story about that. And then I would say goodbye. So people watch them. So I have to go make new ones. But Misty Simon on Facebook, if you want to get sassy memes pretty much on a daily basis, I'm here for it. Because I have one that says, when you like pretty dresses, but you're also a demon from hell. And so it's this demon in this very pretty vintage swing dress. Or the one, it's a reaper with really high heels that says, I put the bitch in obituary, because it's true. So I love that kind of stuff. I think it's, I just got this the other day, which it's important.
I love that.
You. So, I mean, I like fun things that will take people off guard, because sometimes that's what you need. Just like the pocket hug. to stop the spiral. If you're having a really crappy day and somebody says something that makes you guffaw, that changes the whole tone of what you're doing. Or
Yeah.
I post memes that are like, I totally see you and you're doing better than you think you are. And that's, sometimes people need that. I'll have comments where you don't know how much I needed to see this today. And I will say, well, then I'm really glad that you saw it. I'm not doing anything special. All I'm doing is just sending out things that I need to see myself, assuming that there are probably other people who need to see it too. And there you go. That's how we make the world better, I think, is by, realizing that you do not know the whole of anyone. And you may be going through something really crappy, but that girl look, some of them are mean. Don't get me wrong. I'm not giving everybody a pass for being stupid. That's not what I'm saying. But there are people who are they're doing their best, and maybe you are too. And I don't think there's anything wrong with doing that. I do have I obviously my desk is covered with stuff. If you like the
you got a lot of stuff on your desk. I love
if you
that.
like the labyrinth, this is a coin from the end that says, "Should you ever need us?" And that comes actually from Ludo,
I love that movie.
Yes. Well, it's one of my favorites. That and
I love the
Gurgi
worm.
from. Yes, I do not have one of it. However, if you look, he's actually on the coin.
Yeah, I can
The
see
worm, Ludo, and then the fox guy. So, I mean, look, sometimes you need reminders. Sometimes you need reminders that you're doing the right thing. And sometimes you need a mental vacation. And that's why I read. I just want to get sucked into somebody else's shitty day.
Yeah.
Make me feel like I am not the only person who's going through things. And if you make it worse, then that'll make me feel better. So
I love that.
That's what I do. So yes.
I'm so glad I got this chance to chat with you. And I know what I'm calling this episode too. It's going to be called the Misty Simon Experience, because I don't think it's just much about your book. It's about how you imprinted on this world and you make somebody's day better. And I absolutely love that. And I know what I'm planning on doing now. I'm going to go and get some of your backlist.
Okay.
Yeah, I already made a little list, but you just added 2 more. So
okay.
I know what I'm doing. I'm hoping my listeners will go and find you as well, because honestly, you are a riot. I don't think I've laughed this hard ever. These sides are hurting me.
Yeah, you should. Poor Gina, when we're at like Panera, she's like, all right, look, I don't think we're supposed to make this much noise. And I'm like, I don't think that I care.
I wouldn't care. It's absolutely amazing. I really hope that some of my listeners will go out and find your work, or even go find your social medias, because I bet they'd have a riot following along.
There are a lot of fun things on there. And you can go to Misty-Simon.com, and there's a bunch of different things on there, from books to, I actually at one time wrote the dialogue for hidden object games. I've written articles as a guy on cars. I was M. Simon Penner for a little while. So, I mean, there are a lot of different things that you can look at over there, peruse through, see what you like. The Emporium is actually on there.
Oh,
nice.
If
you need a little bit of sassy things that, will just kind of make you smile, even just to look at them. I love when people buy books, but I am never against used bookstores. I am never against the library. I mean, I also am on KU. So if you are a KU reader, Yep, then you can read, and it's part of your subscription. So, and I do sign books. I also emboss them. So if you order a book from me, I emboss it and it says, "You've been Misty-fied," because
episode title, Misty-fied.
I was wondering if you would like that. So you've been Misty-fied, and I don't have it with me, but I do have a stamp also. But the embossing, I got in trouble the other day, because I was embossing a paper towel, and I heard, "Are you embossing a paper towel?" And I was like, "There's a whole roll of toilet paper in the other room that I haven't even touched yet. I would mind your business." It was like,
you're so bad.
Jeez. I'm like, what? So then I'm playing bingo with these ladies on Facebook on a Zoom call, and I told the story, and the one host was like, "I need that toilet paper." And I was like, "I can do that." So I embossed an entire roll of toilet paper and shipped it to her. It's a very bad idea to dare me to do anything, because it is pretty much, I'm not going to be able to say no. So, I mean, it's just, I'm 48 and apparently I'm still like 16 in some ways.
Well, I'm 44 and I'm loving it too. So apparently we just don't outgrow these things.
I'm here for that too. I'm here for all the things. So, but yes, this has been such a pleasure. I am so glad. I wish you lived closer because we'd go to Panera and have probably
Definitely.
a 4-hour lunch. If I'm ever out your way, we'll have to do something because
Definitely. You
we
hit
would
me up.
definitely.
So I'm
Yes, there would be a cosmic disruption, but I'm okay with that.
excellent. Now, I'm telling all my listeners to go and pick up one of your books because I'm hoping to maybe start a book club with some of the authors I've been like talking to. So, I actually think you'd be the best one to start with. So,
I
guys,
would love that.
oh, it would be brilliant. You could come and chat to us too.
Absolutely. Just don't ask me about the purple couch.
Okay. Well, we already know it's a metaphor.
There is no significance. It's just that I like purple. That's it. I'm wearing a purple shirt.
I love that. Guys, you can find me on Facebook at L'Adulteress. You can find me on Instagram at L'Adulteress Whore. You can find me on TikTok at L'Adulteress. Don't forget my YouTube channel at L'Adulteress. And if you type in L'Adulteress on Spotify, you can find me there. Thank you so much for coming on, Misty. I wish I had more time to talk, but I have kids I have to go pick up.
Those kids. Honestly.
Yeah. Maybe we could do a follow-up interview in the future. That would be really great.
I would be available whenever you ask. Absolutely.
Perfect.
Thank you for
Thanks so much, Misty. Readers, take care, and I hope you have the reading week you deserve.